this guy is probably going to be the most underrated running back to ever be talked about for all the accolades he's had and all the records he has here. And this guy just underrated, flies under the radar with everything.
Wait. Who did you just say is the most underrated, underappreciated running back of all time? I just want to confirm for anyone that just skipped forward in the podcast.
I said Frank Gore.
Frank Gore. Okay. All right. This conversation's over. I will not own a single share of Frank Gore.
What?
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the very first episode of Let's Talk Fantasy Football for 2018. For those of you tuning in, we are coming to you live June 5th, 2018, and I am here with the one, the only, the guy you have missed all offseason long, the DON himself. Don, what is up?
Ooh, my man. Nothing, dude. It feels good to be back. I'm sure everyone's already dreading hearing this, but I'm really pumped, dude. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm pumped. We're cracking beers. We are, I've got a little PBR here to kick things off, which seems only fitting here for the first episode of 2018. And we know lots of people have already been kind of jumping into the fantasy football world with some other podcasts. And, we've kind of had our Instagram going a little bit and some articles online. But it feels good to be back on the air, quite frankly. We are literally talking fantasy football once again, Don, and I don't think there's a better feeling.
No, it feels great, man. The only thing I feel bad about is that I'm not having a PBR with you because normally my MO.
Well, good news, Don, is that there are tens and hopefully hundreds of episodes of Let's Talk Fantasy Football still to come. And there are plenty of times left for us to open up some PBRs together and talk to the world about some fantasy football. But, Don, before we jump in there, let's give a shout-out to this year's sponsor, Auction Draft. Auction Draft is the best site for running your fantasy football auction league in 2018. You can sign up now and get on the list for launch by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/auction draft. When you get to the site, if you guys use promo code Let's Talk Fantasy, you'll get 25% off for your entire league. And I've had the sneak peek behind the scenes. We're coordinating now on our side to get our very first auction draft going on the platform. And it is where you guys want to be. We're going to be doing some videos, promos, previews. We're going to have James, the owner, on here, and he's going to tell you all about Auction Draft itself. And we're going to try and become a little more Auction Draft, what do you call it?
Savvy?
Savvy. Perfect. Nailed it.
I'm like a human dictionary, man. If you need a vocabulary, I took a remedial course freshman year of college for things like this. So
and I can see it paid off, Don. It was worth taking the remedial course. Because now, we're talking fantasy football and vocab off the top of your head. Consistency, Don, it's your thing, and I like to see that the offseason hasn't changed you one bit.
Yeah, they call me a young scholar.
A young scholar. I like to think of you as a young Abraham Lincoln, but I don't think you'll be president with the things we know about each other. No. Maybe you'll make a somewhat political run one day. But
no, I wouldn't even attempt it with all the blackmail there is out there.
Yeah, well, not for me because
I would shut that shit down immediately.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. I don't support or condone blackmail in any way, shape, or form. But for those of you that actually are tuning in, you're here to talk fantasy football. You're here to listen fantasy football, and I think there's no better way than to just talk about some of the things we've seen this offseason. We watched the NFL draft go down. Great big show, lots of big moves. By now, you've heard your draft recap and analysis. So we're not going to dive into rookies really, particularly today. But we saw a lot of free agent moves, Don, that are quite frankly going to impact a lot of fantasy football drafts. And I think let's talk right now about the top running back that changed teams this offseason. And I think you could argue it's Jerick McKinnon. He goes from Minnesota to the San Francisco 49ers, gets a sweet deal, $30 million. Wish I was worth that kind of money. Unfortunately not. And quite frankly, it's exciting to see him in that offense with Jimmy G. We saw Jimmy G look good last year. And this has the potential to be big for him and I think for fantasy owners.
They're throwing money, man. San Francisco. They threw a lot of money to Jimmy G, obviously, and then Jerick McKinnon. I don't know, man. Do you think Jerick McKinnon's an upgrade to Carlos Hyde? I mean, I guess he's so far had a better injury or injury-less career so far, but with less of a So I don't know. I really like Carlos Hyde, so I don't know. I kind of think this is a downgrade, but they really believe in him. It's a 4-year deal. It's a lot. It could really be the career opening for Jerick McKinnon. He's 26, about the prime of his career at this moment.
I'm excited for Jerick McKinnon there, actually. I'm just trying to pull up the article. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I'm excited to see him in that offense. I think it's an upgrade. I think over Carlos Hyde. I could never get on board with Carlos Hyde, and the injury history, right, wrong, or indifferent, had kept me away. And we've talked about biases, and we will again. And they cripple us sometimes. But I think Jerick McKinnon is actually an upgrade there over Carlos Hyde. After I just told you about my bias, I'm just pulling up my.
Can we make a little wager on the better year this year?
Sure.
I'm betting I'd like to bet a 30-pack or a 30-rack PBRs.
30 rack of PBRs. I can do a 30 rack of PBRs. What's the bet on? You make the terms because I believe in McKinnon here.
Total scrimmage yardage?
Sure. Straight up.
Straight up?
Straight up. Total scrimmage yardage. Jerick McKinnon versus
Carlos Hyde?
Carlos Hyde. All right, Don. It looks like you're going to owe me a 30 at PBR, and we have our first bet on the board of 2018.
Should we? I'd like to open up a poll on Twitter for this bet here. And
I'll get it on Instagram in the story tomorrow, and we'll get some votes for people here on who's going to have more scrimmage yards, and we'll see why everyone supports me. Is kind of what I expect the results to show.
But with us talking about Jerick McKinnon and free agency, I think that with the San Francisco moves that they're doing and throwing money to Jerick McKinnon, they're trying to revamp their offense. They've already got Marquise Goodwin and Pierre Garçon. They just made a nice move to Richard Sherman. And with having a winning pedigree team with the San Francisco 49ers, have Super Bowls behind them, I think this leads to being the top contender actually for Des Bryant.
Was it we put the post up where he had made that comment on Instagram post actually that he would like to go to the 49ers, and then he promptly deleted his comment. It would be cool to see Dez or throwing up the X there with Jimmy G. And it's nice to see this team put some things together. We watched them be good and then kind of fell off the face of the earth. And now it seems like they have some of the pieces in place. I'd be cool to see Dez there. I've seen also Dez tied to your Green Bay Packers.
Fuck yeah.
Which I'm sure, there you go. As I said, I knew you'd be happy about that.
Don't tell Kyle about that. But
well, we know he's not tuning in, so Kyle definitely didn't hear it here.
Yeah, no, it's all right. So I don't know. I think Dez, that if he's in the right system, people say that he hasn't had the best few years, but obviously you're looking at a new quarterback the past 2 years for him. The system that he was at, they didn't have much offensive help on the other side. Terrence Williams sucked. And then there was just Cole Beasley. So first year was obviously Dak Prescott getting used to his team, and then last year it is what it is. But I think I would love him to go to Green Bay because if he went to Rodgers, I think it would be game over. But I honestly think San Francisco would actually be a really good fit for him as well. So.
Yeah, well, again, I think it becomes a spot where he can be the number one because I don't know that he deserves to be quote unquote that number one. But it is that kind of situation where I don't think his ego can take not being the number one.
I think this kind of might humble him. I think this might be a thing where I need to show Dallas Cowboys that I'm the man. I'm an all-star wide receiver. And I think this might actually shut him up and just give him the motivation that he needs to do.
I hope you're right. I don't think Dez has it in him. I think it's who he is through and through. But it would be cool. It would be nice to say.
Listen, I'm a normal Des Bryant trash talker, but
I got you.
I'm just saying, especially comes to Green Bay. Come on over.
Fair enough. Don, I just want to touch base. Jerick McKinnon, he is currently coming off the board in 12-team standard leagues as the 11th pick in the second round. I don't have his running back number, but 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15th running back off the board. So right now he's coming off as a top 20 guy. And
where's Where's my boy Carlos Hyde coming off?
Your Carlos Hyde is 10th pick in the 5th round. So obviously a big value. But it could be a value boon, if you believe in Carlos Hyde, because you're getting him, essentially 3 rounds later. I'm sorry. So I don't know his overall running back draft spot there, but Carlos Hyde, almost a 6th round guy.
I'll take the Carlos Hyde value over that Jerick McKinnon value.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just trying to see. I don't even think Dez. He's not even being drafted.
We don't even know what team is. It's early. This is
totally fair.
Obviously the ADPs are going to change quite a bit. I mean, the ADPs in general it's actually really funny to look at where these guys are landing. I mean, Julio Jones has probably got to be the first time that he's in the 2nd round in a long time. A lot of running backs off the boards, guys. Can we talk about Saquon Barkley then?
Talk about him. Let's do it.
Dude, Saquon Barkley is going number 7, rookie running back. That's pretty crazy, man. Number 7 in the 1st round, which I love Saquon Barkley, and I think he's going to be a 6 to I would say he's going to be a 6 to 7 time Pro Bowler at least. And that's with the running backs. And but the Giants linemen are still sketchy. I know they got Solder. I know they got Nate Solder, but we don't know what they're going to do with their offense this year. Their running back game plan and their gameplay has never been really good. To be the 7th pick, listen, I think he's going to be a stud and a Pro Bowler for sure, maybe even this year. But 7th pick overall, that's pretty wild.
Fucking crazy. And look, we've always, as a podcast, been pessimistic on rookies. We did it with Zeke. We thought, and again, obviously we were proved wrong there, and that's a small sample size. But, I look at, and again, ADPs, it's early, guys. It's June. It depends how many people are drafting in these drafts and everything else. But according to Fantasy Football Calculator, he is currently in the 12-team standard leagues being drafted. He has the same average draft position, but he's on the list at number 4. Ezekiel Elliott is number 6.
Wait, he's number 4 in standard?
He is the number 4 in standard.
Wow. Oh, okay. And Zeke is behind him. Oh, because
number 6. Yeah. So, I mean, again, and they average out the
12-team PPR. I'm sorry. So
no. I mean, you're in PPR.
I would think that Saquon would actually be even high. I would be an earlier pick in PPR because I feel like he would catch more balls out of the backfield than Zeke. So that's kind of weird that they actually standard wise they would have Saquon ahead of Zeke.
But I mean, either way, I jumped over to the PPR ranking, so we're at least on the same page. But to me, it's looking at the standard ranks. At least it's insane because you have a better offensive line in Dallas, hands down. And again, I'm excited about Barkley, but like you said, the offensive line, they did make some moves, but we don't know. We don't know how those moves are going to play out yet. Their line, we put up an article the other day from Number Fire. Shout out to them with their offensive line rankings for right now, going into the season. We'll see how it all plays. And I don't remember the exact quote, but I went back and forth with somebody, I believe it was on Instagram, about the Giants rankings. And I asked everyone, where do you think your teams rank? And a lot of people thought that the Giants were up there. And they're actually, I don't remember the number, but I want to say somewhere between 20 and 30. And that's because of the moves and sliding people around, and we don't know how it's going to mesh yet.
Yeah, that offensive line, and one, I got to say first, we got to obviously put on record every time we bash rookie running backs pretty bad normally. Not that we bash them, but we're always like, how can you already assume that this guy's going to do this? We did it really bad with Ezekiel Elliott, and we fucked up. I still will stand behind the Saquon Barkley stance for like number 7. I think he's still going to be like, I would like to say that where I would safely like to put him right now would be like where Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey were last year, probably like mid-round, 2nd round, or early 2nd round. But I think, dude, the guy's unbelievable, and he's 100% a Pro Bowler for sure. But yeah, it's funny that you say the 20 to 30 with New York Giants. So on paper, obviously, even last year with who they had, you were just expecting a playoff team to do a lot of great things. But man, it's about time that people started noticing that how crucial offensive linemen are. So, and just think, they made a big move with Nate Solder, and he's probably a top 5 lineman in the league, and they're still a poor line right now. But that's a big help. So he's an offensive tackle, which is going to be really big. But again, Giants gameplay with running backs haven't really been the best. And And then you don't know what that offensive line, and you don't know what's going to go on with Eli and the receivers and the health and all that. We don't know what's going on yet. But man, he's going to be good. He's definitely going to be picked. But it's surprising, not surprising at the same time. Saquon Barkley for 12 team PPR, he's number 7 off the board. It's pretty crazy. Not crazy. I don't know. I'm going to take a sip of this beer.
We're gonna fence it real hard, basically on Saquon Barkley. But ultimately, I mean, right now, again, ADPs are obviously changing. But so even if he's at 7, if you really want him in the second round, I mean, look, odds are
not happening.
Giants fans are gonna. Yes, he's not gonna be there. So this is a situation where we tell you guys every year, over and over, if you want your guy, go get him. And if you truly believe in Saquon Barkley and he's worth it to you, then go get him. It's not something I would do. It's clearly not something you would do at this point in time. But again, when it comes draft day, if that's what you really want, we're not going to convince you otherwise. Whether you're a Giants fan, you loved him in college, whatever it was, if he's the guy you want, then go get him.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I carry my Chiefs bias with me sometimes, and it's upsetting to see Barkley over Kareem Hunt right here, but I get it. So if that's what you want, again, we're months away from drafts, unless you're in dynasty or rookie startups or, some of the best ball leagues I know have started to roll as they slowly do pick by pick. But for the most part, you've got a ton of time to watch these guys. But Barkley, exciting in New York. We're going to see exciting for the Jets as well as they make their pick, and we're going to see how it plays out for both New York teams. But yeah, again, not something we would do, but we tend to be more reserved, I guess you could say, particularly when it comes to rookies.
We normally take a reserved approach. So, in the same sense, we're not bashing him on this. I think we're less bashing him than we were. Zeke, we were very like, fuck that. How can you just say that? But we really messed up. Saquon Barkley, like if someone did it, I'd be like, all right, that's ADP. It is what it is, and I think he's going to be a beast. So it is. But I guess because it's just so surprising because it's so new. 7th pick. It's pretty wild. But this is one of the first times I'm actually fully looking at the ADPs itself. So
yeah, we're definitely just jumping into some things. But Don, here's the next guy I want to talk about, and it's not because of his fantasy relevance or his ADP right now, which I don't even know off the top of my head. I'll have to look. Doug Martin.
Ooh.
And Vinny's not even here
for this one, dude. I feel like you should just leave Vinny to do a solo cast, just 45 minutes on.
And I am. I'm not even gonna to delve into him or possible fantasy. All I'm gonna say, ADP off the board right now is 11th pick in the 11th round. He has signed with the Oakland Raiders. He signed a 1-year deal for almost $1.5 million. So he's doing all right. Yeah. We'll see. And we'll let Vinny dive into the Dougie Fresh analysis and if this is his year to be good again. But
I mean, the only thing I'll say is there's so many question marks around it. He's sharing the backfield with Marshawn Lynch. Now you got John Gruden, so a new offense coordinator. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, he didn't do well last year. So, yeah, that's fair. I mean, we're not going to delve into too much, but, what else can you really, where would you put him for now? We don't know. We haven't seen anything. So that's fair. Let's leave Vinny in the solo cast for Dougie Fresh.
Yeah. Dougie Fresh.
We'll do the Doug solo, the Vin cast. We'll put the Star Wars music as the Doug. It'll be nice.
The Doug solo. The Doug solo. It'll be perfect. Vinny, get ready. It is waiting for you. Another guy who caught my eye as I've kind of scrolled through some free agent moves and some things we've seen here is the one and the only Frank Floor.
I thought you were going to say Teddy Bridgewater for whatever.
Well,
I'd be like, dude, next.
Teddy Bridgewater's my man. So since you brought him up,
he deserves a shout out, I guess.
He deserves a shout out. I'm excited to see him play. I hope he's out there healthy. He is my man. Man. We are excited for Teddy to be back on the field, hopefully healthy, and can only go up. Teddy can only go up. Yeah. But Frank Floor goes and joins the Miami Dolphins, joins Kenyon Drake in that backfield. And I'd still hate Frank Gore. That's really all I got.
Dude, I mean, he's going to be what is his I don't even know what his ADP is. You know what? Listen, at this point, I mean, he's in the beginning of the 14th round in a 12-team PPR.
Look,
I mean, listen, like he's just so like if you're like injury ridden or whatever it is, and you're just like, you know what, fuck it, dude. Like at least I have Frank Gore on my bench at some point to throw him in. At that point, dude, I like that. I respect the shit. Don't say fuck Frank Floyd. No, dude. You know what? No,
No,
fuck,
Don,
no, you know what?
Don,
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Hey,
Listen.
Hey. My
Frank,
flag is going in the ground.
come on,
Frank
dude. You've
Floyd
all been
will not
hating
be-
on Frank Floyd for so many years. You know what? This guy is probably going to be the most underrated running back to ever be talked about for all the accolades he's had and all the records he has here. And this guy just underrated, flies under the radar with everything. And all the things that he's done, you know what? This guy is 34, 35 years old, still relevant. Unlike all look at AP, man. He hits 30 and he breaks. This guy's like 34, 35 years old. He's going to be the second tier to Kenny Drake. Kenny Drake is obviously going to be the cowbell of that. But dude, Frank Gore in the third pick of the 14th round on 12-team PPR, you know what? At that point, you're just picking people to pick. You're picking defenses at that point. So why not just get him? Because God forbid if something happens, you're going to at least get like 6 points out of the guy, and he's going to serve you for a bench during an injury or a bye week where you don't have anything else to do and you can't pick up anybody.
Wait. Who did you just say is the most underrated, underappreciated running back of all time? I just want to confirm for anyone that just skipped forward in the podcast.
I said Frank Gore.
Frank Gore. Okay. All right. This conversation's over. I will not own a single share of Frank Gore.
What? Are you kidding me? Dude, now you're talking. You know what? You're the person that's underappreciating, underrating. The guy is what, top 5 rusher of all time?
Look, Don, I've been down on him every year possible. I'm not going to change my tune now.
He's 35 years old. Why would you change your tune and say he's going to be good? Because he's not. He's not going to be good. But, dude, I mean, listen, I'm okay with it. You know what? Fuck it.
You know what, Don? I've heard a few good pieces of advice in my life, and you continue to double down. When you lose, you just keep doubling down. And at this point, this is what I'm doing.
Down, man.
I am. Because at some point, I have to be right. Or Frank Gore is just going to go down in history as one of the greatest ever and underappreciated. But moving on.
You brought this up. You brought this upon yourself. You're the one that said that you want to talk about Frank Gore, and now you do this shit when I'm actually defending the guy.
Yeah, I brought him up for exactly this reason. We had
you know what? Might as well just pull up Peyton Barber, the guy that's just right ahead of him for running backs taken off the board. I'm lying. Don't talk about Peyton Barber.
What do you think about Peyton Barber?
Don't think anything about Peyton Barber. Let's go. I'm not going to waste my breath on Peyton Barber on the first podcast. We're just picking ADPs over here.
Freaking poor guy, man. Unbelievable. All right, Don, you throw somebody out here.
Throw somebody out there, man. Well, let's just talk. I'd like to talk about that now that we're still just talking about running backs. We're going to give wide receivers love in a second, but it looks like Christian McCaffrey has gained over Devontae Freeman and LaShawn McCoy on a PPR standpoint, which is pretty big. I mean, Devontae Freeman's been a big bell cow for a lot of people. LaShawn McCoy, a consistent bell cow that's been a star and still doing what he needs to do. I mean, what do you think about that, dude? Do you think Christian McCaffrey is that good? And I like Christian McCaffrey. He's going to be good, especially PPR. It might be a little different than standard, but like he's now made that move where he's going to be the first half of the second round in a PPR league over a Devontae Freeman, LaShawn McCoy, who's been one of your could be your number one running back for the past few years on your team.
This is a guy who I'm super, and I haven't delved crazy into the numbers, but I think there were a lot of people that were, very excited about him. And then CJ Anderson went and signed with the Panthers. And we've seen flashes of CJ Anderson, great, not great, injured, not injured. I'm concerned about him making that jump a little bit over Devontae Freeman, LaShawn McCoy. Again, we don't know what C.J. Anderson's role is necessarily going to be. Christian McCaffrey, in theory, should be a stud. Cam is going to be out there doing his thing. But I don't know what C.J. Anderson's role and bite is going to be, and I need to dive deeper into that. So right now, I would probably take Devontae Freeman and LaShawn McCoy over Christian McCaffrey.
I'm trying to pull up here. I mean, because with C.J. Anderson going down, do we know the depth chart of? Oh, it's going to be. Is it Cameron Artis-Payne is the second RB?
Yes, he should be.
I'm pretty sure they said that he's going to see a bigger role. Although it should have been fuzzy. Or Fozzie. Was it Fuzzy or Fozzie?
Fuzzy, Fozzie, tomato.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same thing.
Just the guy's name, it's not a big deal.
I mean, listen, CJ Anderson leaving is it's gonna obviously boost the role for Christian McCaffrey. Dude, they still? Oh, well, no, because they have CJ Anderson. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of what's his name?
You're talking the other side. Oh, you're talking Tolbert gone?
Huh?
Who are you talking? No,
Tolbert, dude.
I mean, you said gone. I don't know who you're referring to.
We might need to edit this out because we can't even list the running back that was there last. Jonathan Stewart.
Yeah.
Is who I'm talking about. I forgot. CJ. Okay, so CJ Anderson's going to be there. I don't know. CJ Anderson's not that great. You got Jonathan Stewart that's gone. Maybe he steps in a little bit of a role, CJ Anderson, that Jonathan Stewart does. But I think that there's going to be a heavier role to Christian McCaffrey. I don't know yet if I'm still going to take him over Devontae Freeman or LaShawn McCoy. To be honest with you, at that point, I might just start avoiding running backs and just start going wide receiver because I'm a little bitch and I don't know what to do at that point.
Fair enough. I really can't argue that. Little bitch is accurate.
But overall, right now, I think it would be tough for me to take Christian McCaffrey over Devontae Freeman or LaShawn McCoy. I think I would still give them the edge at the moment.
Fair enough. No argument here for me, Don. And I think we've jumped into a bunch of running backs. I think we're going to switch gears. But before we switch gears to talk wide receivers and some other guys here, we're going to take a really quick break. I do want to give a shout out here to some of our new launches. We want you guys to check us out on Google Home. You can now talk to Google and ask for fantasy football ADPs, get NFL stats. That should be launching in the next few weeks. We're also on Amazon Alexa. You can literally talk fantasy football, guys. But enough self-promo. Let's hear from Auction Draft, and we'll be back to talk wide receivers.
Auction Draft is the best site for running your fantasy football auction league in 2018. You can sign up now and get on the list for launch by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/auction draft.
All right, guys, and that was Auction Draft. We are offering 25% off in a partnership with them. Use the code Let's Talk Fantasy. Go to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/auction draft. Sign up, get your leagues on there. There's a big chart that breaks down the benefits they offer you, and you can play mini seasons, mini weeks if you want to play 4-week chunks and redraft, almost like a daily fantasy option there that lasts a couple weeks for auction drafting. So super cool. We're super, super excited about it. And with that, let's jump over to wide receivers.
25%?
25% off, man.
Dang,
25% off.
We got a big pull around here.
Absolutely, man. The LTFF name carries more weight than many people realize. You think it's just the DON who loves consistency, our director of pretty much everything. But his name carries weight in a lot of circles.
I run shit,
Hey, someone's got to be in charge, Don. We would be a boat without a captain, I would say, without you. So
probably without paddles, too.
Cheers to that, Don. Definitely no paddles.
Cheers.
So now that we do have some paddles and we do have a captain, Don, why don't you give us some direction here as we dive into wide receivers? Who's the name here? Free agent, someone an ADP, somebody that you think is worth going into the conversation here on episode 1.
Wow.
Yeah, big responsibility.
It's so bad. I want to stick with running backs. I won't, though. We'll leave that, but I want to. There's just so many in the first round, which leaves so little in the first round.
Yep, but you know what's going to happen, Don? We're going to keep those running backs. We're going to bundle them up. We're going to keep them hostage here for ourselves, and we're going to hold on to them for our next episode, which is going to drop either Friday or Saturday morning this week for you guys. So believe it or not, 2 episodes of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. We'll get those running backs in there, and we're going to open up the floor to questions starting in episode 2, so you guys can send them in. And I know some of you guys are pumped on it. You should be. But, Don, wide receivers, we're forcing it. Here we go. Paddles in your hand. Where are we going?
Yeah. Let's talk about not only being a fan favorite, but I think this is probably one of the bigger jumps of the draft, Davante Adams.
All right.
Now, Shrek, I want an outsider view of what you think. So he's the number 7 receiver off the board. Now, the receivers right now going ahead of them is Antonio Brown, deservedly, DeAndre Hopkins deservedly. We should probably hit him in a minute too.
Yes.
Odell Beckham, number 3, which is another debatable deal with Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, and Keenan Allen ahead of him. That puts Devontae right now ahead of AJ Green, Mike Evans, Doug Baldwin. What do you think, dude? What do you think, being an outsider that's not Packer heavy on this? You know, you got an outsider view. This is strictly fantasy football analysis here. What do you think with he's made the move up? He's the number 1 right now in Green Bay wide receiver wise, and he's going 6th pick in the 2nd round, number 7 off the board for wide receivers.
Scoof. First off, Jordy Nelson being cut. Wow, shocker. Obviously, we're about 3 months late talking about that news, but we'll focus on Devontae Adams.
We have Instagram posts about it and all that.
Yeah, I mean, we just haven't podcasted about it, so it's out there. We've been on top of it.
Love you, Jordy.
Yeah, there it is, Jordy, if you're tuning in, and we know you are. The DON loves you. 7 off the board is – it's tough because I want to say it's terrifying for me, but at the same time as I look around and I look, all right, I would take AJ Green over him. I'd probably take Mike Evans over Devontae Adams. But then I look at like the Doug Baldwin territory, Adam Thielen, Tyreek Hill, who I think falls off. The offense I think gets a little more balanced, we'll call it, and with Mahomes in his first year. But I digress. I mean, when Aaron Rodgers is healthy, man, he makes shit happen. And we saw it with Jordy every year. I feel like it was like, well, it's got to fall off. Jordy's getting older. And as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy, he has the dominant wide receiver 1. They have the connection. It happens. I can't explain it. I don't know that many people can. So I think he will perform, and I think he will deliver for fantasy owners. And I don't have any statistical backing to that at all. And that textbook is what we do at Let's Talk Fantasy Football. It's gut reactions. It's off the cuff. And again, minus taking him over there, AJ Green and Mike Evans, I would take Devontae Adams in that range. I mean, again, I'd probably prefer running back, but talking wide receivers, Aaron Rodgers makes it happen. I don't know why, but it does. I don't know. I'm a little reserved about it, but if I'm in the spot, I'm okay with it.
More Packer bias here. So actually I was reading a little bit right before. It was like just a thread on Roto World, and a lot of people are saying, you know what, his physicality, not having 1,000 yards yet, blah, blah, blah. To make you feel better about Devontae Adams, he's definitely their number 1 wide receiver. The only thing that you might see a downtick is Jimmy Graham could be more of a red zone target, but obviously we haven't seen enough of Jimmy Graham. When we sign big name tight ends, it hasn't worked in the past, but I think he's going to work out fine. I mean, right now, from what I know, it's going to be Devontae Adams, and the other outside is Geronimo Allison. Devontae Adams really felt comfortable in his role. He got a Pro Bowl year last year. Not only that, though, and listen, I never bank on Aaron Rodgers being hurt, but Devontae Adams seems to be a very reliable receiver for like Hundley went to Devontae Adams a lot. I think that would be kind of the case where he's going to show up a lot. He's going to be that number 1 receiver no matter who's at quarterback. But fingers are always crossed, and Rodgers is the best in the league for sure. Man, once you have Rodgers at the helm, man, and he doesn't have his Jordy to look at, man. So Cobb hasn't really been the same Cobb in the past few years. Geronimo Allison is still very new and fresh. I think Jimmy Graham's going to have a good year, but I think Devontae Adams, this is the year that he makes a really big leap, and it's going to be a big-time deal for him. So I would I would be back and forth with him and AJ Green, but once it's from there, I mean, I really like where he's at, number 7. So
yeah, man. Like you said, Aaron Rodgers is the de facto, like it's the trump card. You know, when in doubt, your faith is in Aaron Rodgers more so than it is Devontae Adams.
For sure.
Just historically based on what he has done. Yeah, man. I think. Do you want to circle back and touch on DeAndre Hopkins, because we kind of hit him as we went down the list, and you know, he's coming off the board number 2.
Yeah,
he's picking the first round.
He's had a good year every single year except the 1 year that I took him 2 years ago.
Well, the curse is on him.
But, dude, stud, man. Deshaun Watson is coming back. I absolutely think he deserves to be the number 2 receiver, and I think he probably finishes as the number 1 receiver fantasy-wise this year, especially if Deshaun Watson stays healthy all year.
That's a bet I would 100% agree with. I think he has every opportunity to jump Antonio Brown there and finish as the number 1 wide receiver. And I think if you wanted to take DeAndre Hopkins over Antonio Brown, I wouldn't bat an eye.
Or if you want to slide, if you have the position between 5 and 8, and you want to slide and get a better second-round pick, and you know you're going wide receiver, I would 100% do it because I would love if you're in a half-point PPR, full-point PPR, he's going to get a lot of targets this year. A lot of targets. Wow. Number 8 would be a great spot for him.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you look at the top of the draft and it's Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, David Johnson. You could see Kamara go 5. Barkley could go 6, even if Antonio Brown goes 7. Most boards are going to look.
Antonio Brown might be going before maybe Saquon or Alvin, but either way.
I agree, but somewhere in that 7 mix, maybe DeAndre goes 7 and Barkley falls depending on your league. But like you said, you can have that opportunity to drop back if your league allows you to and get a stud in DeAndre and you get that quicker flip in the second round.
So all right, Shrek. So you're number 7. For whatever reason, that draft, everyone went running back. You're now looking at either you could take Kareem Hunt as the next running back, or you go Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
What are you looking? What are you doing?
I'm gonna go Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins.
All right, you're leaving me on the fence here. Who are you taking?
I'm sorry. DeAndre Hopkins.
Like it.
I'm gonna say DeAndre Hopkins again. You could argue either way. I think it's hard to say because you watch Antonio Brown put up these 45 weeks.
He's a beast, man.
But I love the upside of DeAndre Hopkins, and I would probably take DeAndre Hopkins and likely not regret it. Would you do the same?
It just sucks because I've gotten beaten by DeAndre Hopkins the only year that I drafted him early, first round. I got fucked. But yeah, no, honestly, I would like it. If Deshaun Watson is healthy, Deshaun Watson, obviously, we're going to hit him at some point in one of our podcasts. He was absolutely unbelievable. He could have finished number 1 overall fantasy points last year for what he was doing. Yeah. So, and his number 1 target was no question DeAndre Hopkins. So, got to remember Ben is hurt all the time. Ben is old.
Yeah, he's not young
Antonio Brown's about to be 30 in July.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's been in the league for quite some time. DeAndre Hopkins is a little bit younger. So he's in his prime. The Texans are bought in on Deshaun Watson. He is really good. Yeah. Happy birthday, DeAndre Hopkins. It's your birthday today. He just turned 25.
There it is.
So he's 5 years younger. He's he's just hitting prime years right now. DeAndre Hopkins is probably going to be my number 1 receiver off the board.
Fair enough. I have no problem with that at all. No problem at all. DeAndre Hopkins, big things to come. Big things to come. All right, Don, let's hit one more wide receiver. Do you have anybody in particular you want to talk about?
You've been throwing at me. What do you got?
I'm just scrolling down the list here to see if we get someone a little bit.
A
sleeper, or somebody that's a little bit more middle of the pack. And we got Allen Robinson in Chicago. You got Brandon Cooks now with the Rams. Let's just stop there and look at that Rams offense for a second. Holy shit!
You can just look at their whole team, dude. I mean, they're the win. They're probably the winners of the free agency with a Cleveland Browns tied or very close second.
Dude, the Rams. It was just I felt like every day I was getting a sleeper bot alert. Shout out to them. Or anybody else, a couple ESPN breaking news comes in a little late, and the Rams trade for this guy. They're moving picks here. Sammy Watkins goes to the Chiefs. It's just like absolute insanity. The Rams are going to be really, really freaking good, as if you guys don't already know that. But I think it's just important to note because it was, the Rams had been a tough spot to be a fan for a while. And they go to LA and they're making things happen. And Todd Gurley, I guess this is my yearly apology. I apologize, and I'm sorry.
Should have watched that Gatorade commercial, man.
For being mean to you last year. And
Should have watched that Gatorade commercial, man.
I now drink Gatorade, so I digress.
Gatorade, if you want to throw us some money for that sponsorship, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we're not picky. We're pretty flexible, so just reach out to us. Don runs shit, so reach out to him.
Yeah, I do it all, man. Operations manager, human resources,
content, everything.
I do it all, man. I'm the social media manager over here, so I do it all.
I'm just a figurehead, man. I appreciate all you do here. You run it all, so
we all make it seem like Shrek runs it all, and he doesn't do anything. He doesn't send a tweet out. He doesn't send an Instagram post out. He doesn't set up our any of our podcasts, cut them up, chop them up, get them ready to go. He's a fraud.
Yeah, some people call me the chef of fantasy football, and it's not true. So all that credit goes to the DON himself. And I
don't know. I don't know if Walsh or Vinny would like that, but I'll take the credit while it's there.
We'll take it right.
They're gonna
right
listen
now.
to that and be like, "Fuck that."
Yeah, a good spit out of the coffee tomorrow morning as everyone is tuning in. I guess the one guy I want to talk about, and I just hit him on the ADP, and he's a play in here, Don, and it's going to. You probably know where it's going. Maybe not. Jordy Nelson, Oakland Raiders.
It's funny. I wanted to talk about that right after Devontae. I was like, you know what? Let's go to Jordy too, man.
Yep. Yeah, because you look, like we said, he gets cut. Total shocker. Joins the Oakland Raiders. They get rid of intern Michael Crabtree. The domino here was fucking insane. So now he's in Oakland with Amari Cooper, and Derek Carr. Like you said, new head coach, Marshawn in the backfield. What do you expect from Jordy? He comes from being the guy with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, obviously we expect a drop-off. I mean, he's being drafted right now as the first pick in the 8th round.
He's actually in a mix of probably the craziest wide receivers right now. To give you a heads up, that's Sammy Watkins in Kansas City ahead of him. Robert Woods, who had a great year in L.A., but now has Brandon Cooks there. Then Chris Hogan, who had a good year before getting hurt in New England. Then it's Jordy Nelson. Then Emmanuel Sanders. And then behind it is Cooper Kupp in L.A., and then Robbie Anderson, who had a great year in New York. That's a crazy group right there that he's in the mix of.
That is a very wild group. I mean, you're talking talent, people leaving, people coming.
A lot of question marks with a lot of upside. It's kind of crazy. Or downside, you don't know what the two, Kupp and Woods, now that they got Cooks. That's a lot of question marks there, man. Pick your wide receivers way ahead of that because I don't want to be in that mix at all. I don't know what the hell to do there. Jordy Nelson, I mean, listen, you know what? I think that Jordy Nelson's production is going to rely heavily on Amari Cooper. Last year, Amari Cooper was drafted very early. Everyone had a lot of high expectations, and he really busted besides the 1 week that I decided not to start him in a league. And he decided to have 3 touchdowns. It's my luck.
Of course.
If there's anyone that actually listens to our podcast every year, that Don gets fucked. For the rest of you that don't listen to us and don't care, I get fucked. So the one time I played him and he went the fuck off, and then I played him again and it never worked out. So it really depends on the progression of Amari Cooper and Derek Carr. I mean, if finally Derek Carr decides that Amari Cooper's going to be his guy and that Amari Cooper's going to get this shit together, Jordy Nelson might deserve this 8th round pick. But I also believe that that's a really good spot for Jordy Nelson right now between a few established younger guys that are making waves with their teams. Or if Amari Cooper does the whole same thing, Jordy Nelson's going to fill that Michael Crabtree slot very well. If he stays healthy, man, No one runs routes like Jordy Nelson does. He runs pro routes that it's just unbelievable. He doesn't have that step over anybody else, but he just finds a way to get those deep posts and those deep balls. So Derek Carr is going to be slinging it to him. So I like where he's at now. Man, I would still like to take him over like a Devin Funchess or Pierre Garçon, but I mean, ahead of them you got Will Fuller. I would still take him over Will Fuller too because he's so spotty with only deep balls. Corey Davis, I mean, he has got a lot of upside. And then there's Michael Crabtree at Baltimore. I think he's going to be good too. So, I mean, man, I would still like to take him over for some of these guys, but these are 6th round and 5th round. You got to see what the offseason tells you, and it really, really depends on the progression of Amari Cooper this year. But don't sleep on him either, man. He's a pro's pro. He puts his grind in, his work in it, and he runs routes better than most receivers do. So even if he's losing a step or whatever it may be, he's still going to get those deep balls and going to find a way to catch the ball. So and Derek Carr is not afraid to sling it either. So he's meant for that offense. John Gruden likes him. Jordy's the man.
Agree, man. I mean, I'm super interested to get Walsh's take on that Oakland offense as a whole. He's always tuned in. I mean, I know, he goes out to camps there and just sits there for hours and hours and watches these guys, crushes some Miller Lights and then, nice. I'm sorry.
He can't drink IPA, so he does the.
Yeah, hey man, nothing wrong with some good Miller Lights, but
it's too tardy. Too tardy,
definitely too tardy. But sometimes once in a while he'll dabble in for an episode or two. But we're excited to have everyone back on the show, and especially hear from our Raiders expert there, Walsh. But yeah, man, like you said, that grouping is super interesting. I think there just becomes the preference on the dart throw. Like you said, Chris Hogan, they lose Brandon Cooks in New England. Jordy goes to a new team in Oakland. What happens with the Rams? Sammy Watkins comes to KC with the new QB.
A lot of question marks, man. That's a crazy group right there.
It's absolutely wild. And I'm interested to see how they shift, as we move through the summer. And, we hit July and August and we really get to crunch time. But I think the most important takeaway from this podcast, guys, in episode 1 is don't draft your teams until after we host our draft, because Don will come on the air and tell you who he drafted and then avoid all of those people and you will be fine.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I do everything for Let's Talk Fantasy Football, but fuck Don.
Hey man, you said it yourself. You usually get fucked when you with the
No, you know what? I have the right idea a year too early, always.
There you go. So
Lamar Miller, man.
Hey, so even better takeaway.
Cecil Shorts, I don't have an answer for, but but I had a dream.
We all have our Cecil Shorts. I know the feeling all too well. But the real takeaway, go back.
Where's Zach Stacy on this year?
Me and Zach Stacy. He's actually hanging out right now next to me on my futon, so that's a ton of fun. We're crushing some PBRs together, dreaming of much better days. But if you want to know what to do, go back, listen to Don's recommendations from last year's episodes. They're all in the podcast reel, and that already gives you strategy heading into this year's draft.
They were all marinating for this year, man.
There it is, marinating on the grill, Don.
That's right.
Oh, hell yeah. I got a nice new grill here at LTFF headquarters, so we'll throw some players on there.
You know what I want to talk about? TJ Yeldon. TJ Casey, man.
Okay, let's talk about TJ.
No, do not talk about TJ. Is that guy even on ADP this year?
Probably not. I would guess definitely not. Nope, definitely not. Shocker. I guess actually. Hold on, I do want to jump into the QBs, and I think we're going to finish up with one last guy here, and I want to see where he is exactly going. It'll load. All right.
QB?
Oh, all right. I'm going to change my answer, and I'm going to go back here. The number 2 QB off the board, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I believe that. Dude, I mean, he would have been the number 1 fantasy player last year.
Yeah.
Overall.
Right.
I don't doubt that. They got Russell Wilson at number 3, dude. I mean, listen, you got Deshaun Watson coming off an injury, but had a great year last year. Russell Wilson ended up starting off slow, but had a good year. Then you got Tom Brady, dude. He's 41 or 42 years old, but he still have him top 4 because you have to. Then Carson Wentz is 5. I mean, dude, he tore his ACL, and now they're still.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of question marks, man.
You're
Go
right.
Aaron Rodgers. That's it. That's all you got to worry about.
That's it. That's the takeaway. Go Aaron Rodgers.
But I'll tell you what. Listen, we're not used to these quarterbacks being in the top 10. We've had the same slew of them. You now have in the top 10, which you've probably never seen before, Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz, a Jimmy Garoppolo at number 8, and Jared Goff at number 4. We've never seen that before. That's a lot of new blood. Sleeper, Phillip Rivers, number 13. Bolt up. They could be the AFC champs of the year.
All right, let's not get carried away.
What? Dude, Melvin Ingram came out and said it, man. Phillip Rivers, easily sleeper. I'll say that's a sleeper of the quarterback of the draft, again, as he always is. He's always drafted outside the number 10. He always is your solid fantasy player. You better bolt up for some Philly Rivers action, man.
I will not disagree with that. He's always underappreciated. You could argue one of the more underappreciated QBs.
It's like Frank Gore, man.
Since we're on that streak.
Comes out every year, setting records, holding passes, popping out babies.
Lots of those. Definitely lots of babies.
He's got a 15-passenger van by now with all the kids he's lugging around.
Did you see the article? I think it came out last year. It was like the RV or van he bought to like drive back and forth with his kids, and then he's got like a little like TV set up so he can like watch game film. It's insane.
I bet it's amazing. Pimp my ride, Phillip Rivers style.
And you'll be the narrator. We'll have you narrating.
Yeah, I took over Exhibit's role.
Sponsored by Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Directed and produced by Don
If I could get an interview with fucking Phillip Rivers, dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, talk about Christmas morning. You'll be like a kid on Christmas morning.
Talk about Christmas morning.
Boom. So
I would have him sign my left boob, dude. Are you kidding me?
And then never shower again.
No, definitely not.
Because you can't ruin it.
No.
You know, that's Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers, dude.
But all right, Don. So we have one question tonight. Comes from a very, very good friend of mine, and this is he's a newbie here to fantasy football. So his question comes in asking, as a newbie, the first pick of any draft, what position should that pick come from? And for someone that knows nothing here, I think it really. You could technically say it depends on your league, but you're probably playing in a standard or a PPR league. I would imagine if it's your first year, you shouldn't be delving into, in my opinion, auction, dynasty. I would get a year under your belt playing normal fantasy football or some daily. But if we're playing here from regular leagues, you look at ADPs, and I think you're taking a running back at number 1 overall every day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, so this draft is going to be a heavy running back, obviously. They only have 3 wide receivers in the first round. But generally, man, I mean, year after year, a lot of us at LTFF are very running back heavy for the most part. This year especially, you're going running back this year. Overall, though, I always like to lean to my running backs unless it depends on where I land in the first round. But most likely it depends on where you land in the first round, but there's 7 out of 10 of them are being picked in the first round. So go running back.
Yep, 100%. That cliff falls off quickly, kind of as we talked about when we started talking about some questionable guys, and we're saving a lot of those for the later on this week's episode. The next question there, Don, which we'll save for the end of the week, becomes who you take at number 1 overall. But we'll save that one for the next podcast.
Are you doing the cliffhanger, dude?
And we will throw that.
That's some bullshit.
There it is, right there. Tune in, guys, Friday, Saturday morning for episode 2 of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. We'll talk about a little bit about the first pick right now that we take in the draft. We'll delve into some more running backs, take some reader questions, and quite frankly, we'll see where this captain takes our ship. So until next week, guys.
I do it all.
You're the captain, man. You are the captain.
All right. Let me know when you need to send me a link so I can chop all this up.
Yep, we'll get you, man. You are the chef of the fantasy football world. So, guys, for Let's Talk Fantasy Football, I'm Nick Schreck. He is the DON, the chef, the captain. We'll catch you on the flip side.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.